Ki Mitzion, because from Zion. Ki Mitzion Teitzei, Teitzei Torah, because from Zion comes the Torah. Udevar Hashem Mi Yerushalayim. And the word of God comes from Jerusalem. This is what we say whenever we take out the Torah on Torah reading days. So we always say, when we bring out the Torah, we say, Ki Mitzion Teitzei Torah, because from Zion comes the Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem. Here we go. In the city of gold, I left a little prayer pressed inside your walls of stone. And I pledged my heart to carry out your will, if you'd only make it known. Patiently you waited until I could hear the tune. Ki Mitzion Teitzei Torah Udevar Hashem Mirushalayim. Ki Mitzion Teitzei Torah Udevar Hashem Mirushalayim. When the desert night sweeps the seven gates and the stars light up the sky, I can hear your voice whispering on the wind when I stop to hear the cry. From Jerusalem, your inspiration feeds a hungry world. Ki Mitzion Teitzei Torah Udevar Hashem Mirushalayim. Ki Mitzion Teitzei Torah Udevar Hashem Mirushalayim. You see, Jerusalem is like such an amazing place. Everything's so organic here. You know, your Judaism's organic here. You even notice how at home you feel? It's not normal, guys. You're in the Middle East, but you're like walking around like you own the place because you're just home here. And you'll notice your vices disappear. People don't even notice things they normally do all day aren't going on now. Even all the surfing I used to do, like I didn't even notice. Golfers who golf all day, totally forget, like whatever happened to golfing. Television addicts, so like, haven't seen a TV in weeks, don't care. And people involved in all kinds of other illegal activity find themselves to live kind of saintly when they're in Jerusalem. It's really strange. But you know you're hooked up when you're not involved with your vices, because our vices are the way we medicate. It's the way we medicate when we're missing Zion, when we're missing Zion, we're missing the depth. It's all just self-medication. In the city of gold, this perfect stranger finally feels at home. It's my heartbeat. Sing with me. Ki Mitzion Teitzei Torah Udevar Hashem Mirushalayim. Ki Mitzion. You can put your hands together. Teitzei Torah Odeva Hashem. Sing it. Mirushalayim Kimitzion Tetzeh Torah Odeva Hashem Mirushalayim Kimitzion Tetzeh Torah Odeva Hashem Mirushalayim. What we're going to do right now is, because of all my Kabbalistic studies, I've found that I've been able to wrap things up in like a really tight, neat, and clearly understood package in short amount of time. So we only have a short amount of time, but watch this. What we're going to do first is the proof of God in 25 seconds. You guys ever heard of proof of God in 25 seconds? Amazing. Proof of God in 25 seconds. Before there was something, there was absolutely nothing. Now that there's something, so the something wouldn't have created itself, meaning things don't create themselves, meaning whatever was before this place, i.e. the nothing, must have had a lot to do with whatever the something is, and that's what we call God. Okay, I've got it down to like 15 seconds. Yeah. But you guys are like, what? You know, so that might have gone straight over your head. But it works like this. Listen up. God is not a thing. That's another thing religions do, is they make God into something. Yeah, they make God into, whatever it is. We go much more scientific. Science ends where time and space ends, meaning where time and space begins, that's where science ends, because you need instrument of measurement for science. What is a scientist? A scientist is someone who describes observable phenomena, right? That's their job. But we're talking about what's preceding space and time. So you wouldn't wait around for scientists to discuss it. It's just going to be a giant question mark. Okay, sorry, your way. A giant question mark, right? It can't be anything more than a question mark. Now, they can get theoretical. There's a lot of theoretical science on what's on the other side of space and time. But there's not hard science before space and time, because we just don't have instruments to measure that. Because the instrument itself would have to precede space and time, which is like, don't hold your breath for such an instrument. Okay? So they leave it as a question mark. Religions tend to answer that question. And Judaism tends to what? Leave it as a question mark. We have no idea who God is. No idea. It's the craziest thing. Like, here I am, like, living my life for this being that I have no idea what it is. We don't know what it is. We really don't know what it is. We know the world didn't make itself. That's crazy, right? That's too big an assumption, right? If you're being intellectual, you want big assumptions or little assumptions? If you're being intellectual, you want as little assumptions as possible. So, first of all, what it is that precedes space and time, we're going to leave as a question mark. Judaism does not define it, okay? And what it is, and the fact that the world didn't make itself, because that's such a ridiculous statement that the world would have made itself. Okay, worlds don't make themselves, just like nothing makes itself. Everything you'll ever see is an effect of a previous cause, right? Everything in the entire creation is always the effect of a previous cause, which is the effect of a previous cause, which is the effect of a previous cause, all the way down. So why in the world would we think that the effect of creation wouldn't have had a previous cause? Now, obviously, it had a previous cause, and that's what we call God. Okay, God is that cause. What God is, we have no idea. No idea. We don't know what God is. And that's really amazing, because a lot of atheists who, like the way I was raised, a lot of atheists say, hey, I don't know what that God is, but I don't want to buy into who you say God is, when I know you're probably making it up, or someone made it, or someone came out of a cave and made it up, but someone's making it up. And when I discovered in Judaism that we don't make it up, we leave it as just, we don't know. There's no way to know what it is. So let's get it on the board. There's going to be 6 steps. And by the 6th step, you should be levitating. Okay? By the 5th step. Okay? So 6 steps. 4, 5, 6. Step 1 is before there was some, you mind if I use text messaging? Is that all right? You guys will get it, right? Before there was something, there was what? Nothing. Excellent. That nothing that precedes the something is what Judaism calls God. Okay, that's not the Grateful Dead. That's God. Okay? Before there was something, there was none. Although they say God speaks at the Grateful Dead concerts. Okay? Truth is, God's speaking all the time. It's just the Grateful Dead concerts, people are listening. Okay? So so nothing, right? Before there was something, there was nothing. That nothing is what we call God. Now, there are two things we know about the nothingness of God. One is that it's one. Okay? Put a ness there, but it's one, right? Because can you have two nothings? What if you multiply or divide nothing by 30? How many you get? Nothing, right? Do you get that? Which is really cool. Because it's totally, whatever it was, it didn't have differentiation. It had no compartmentalization. It has no parts. It's a nothing that is just this total substrate of nothingness without any detail to it, which is really cool because it's a totally different definition of monotheism. You guys grew up with, what was our definition of monotheism growing up? The belief in one God. That's not what we're saying here, nor does it say it anywhere in the Torah. Okay, this is the belief that God is one. Do you hear the difference? This is the difference between softcore monotheism and hardcore monotheism, okay? Softcore monotheism is the belief in one God. So we're here, and somewhere out there, there's this God. Yeah, that's what we were raised, thinking in elementary school, and that's what religions generally say, okay? In Judaism, we don't say that. In Judaism, we say that God is absolutely undifferentiated oneness, okay? And we'll go on with that in a second. You'll understand more. Number 4 step is that it knows what it's doing. Okay, so I'm going to call it intelligent. It's intelligent. Okay, it knows what it's doing. When I say this, you could use any word, conscious. It's conscious of what it's doing. It's got intention in what it's doing because it created the entire universe. Okay, so it seems to know what it's up to. It also has incredible control because it should create actually more chaos, yet it creates more order. So there's something called entropy. In nature, things get more chaotic, not more orderly. If you roll marbles down a staircase, the Kotel staircase, it doesn't become like the Israeli flag. It just gets more and more chaotic. So Big Bang should create more chaos, not more order. And yet we see there's incredible order. I mean, you get a cut, it heals. Just amazing order happens in our world. And there's this coalescing that happens throughout our creation. An amazing property that's really undescribable. So intelligence, it's got some kind of consciousness because it makes worlds. So like anything that makes worlds knows what it's doing, okay? Knows what it's doing. Whatever it is, it knew what it's doing. Okay, step 5. You ready for this? Here's where we start levitating. If all there was it, so if all there was it, meaning it's this vast oneness, it's made of no space and time, doesn't have any parts, yet somehow knows what it's doing, it's got this consciousness to it. If all there was it, what did it use to create the world? Did it go to Home Depot? And what did it use to create the world? If all there was it, what did it use to create the world? Answer? Itself. Whoa. Think about it. If all there was it, and all it is an undifferentiated oneness, and it has this intelligence to it, so it created the world out of its own intelligence, meaning we are made of its intelligence. In other words, if I can put it like this, we are in it. We're in it. And this is where Kabbalah really takes off. This is where it gets really interesting. There's tons and tons of study of this. This is what I'm mostly studying is how we're somehow in it. But it's really cool. And by the way, it can't be any other way. Because the second you say we're not in it, that means we're separate from it, and it's no longer one, meaning it's no longer undifferentiated. You get that? Meaning the second you say that God is separate than creation, what you're saying is God ends and creation begins, which means he's no longer infinite. Because infinite beings are unlimited by, what's the dictionary saying? Unlimited by space and time. So if you want to say that God ends and space and time begins separately, So God's now limited from space and time. Okay, I know there's a wild concept for the morning. You know, you're not used to thinking that. Nor am I used to playing songs in the morning and singing. But but get that again. If you say that God creates the world and he stops here and then there's space and time, you're basically saying God now has an edge, border, a limit, which means God is finite, which is not at all what obviously we're saying here. Because before there was something, there was absolutely nothing. And that nothing, right, is what created the world, and it created the world only out of what there was. What was there? It. So we're ultimately in the mind of God. So if I pull out my phone and go GPS on this thing, so it's going to say we're where? It's going to say we're in Jerusalem, right? And are we in Jerusalem, though? In the ultimate picture, are we in Jerusalem right now? Not really. In the space and time, the space-time continuum, we're in Jerusalem. But in the bigger picture, in the ultimate reality, the capital R reality, sorry, I should have gone the other way. The capital R reality, where we are, is in the mind of God. And we know this a lot from physics, from quantum physics today. Because everything around you right now is all just wave patterns. You think I'm speaking English right now? This isn't English. Just like my guitar was playing, when I play an A note, an A string, it's vibrating at 220 oscillations per second. The vibration's shooting across the room, hitting your eardrum. Your eardrum's just getting the math of 220. It goes straight to your cerebral cortex. The neurons have heard lots of A strings throughout their lives, and they're like, oh, A string. And it's the same with my English. You think I'm speaking English right now? This isn't English. This is all math. It's all math. I'm just sending out wave patterns. In fact, my vocal cords are right now vibrating at 220 oscillations per second. And as I speak to you in all these different frequencies, they're shooting across the room, hitting your tympanic membrane in your ear, shooting up to your cerebral cortex. Ones and zeros are turning it back into English. In other words, you're great at math. You're doing tremendous math right now. And you want to know something else. If you know any physics, so this is all made of protons, neutrons, electrons. It's mostly moving. Each molecule of it's made mostly of space. And it's just moving so fast that the wave pattern makes a solid wood, lectern. Okay? And my sweater also on the floor and the chairs, but we're all made of the same exact stuff. We're all made of protons, neutrons, and electrons. And this is what I like to call the cosmic diamond, if you will. The cosmic diamond means we're coming from absolute oneness, meaning God is, this oneness that's shooting out creation. We're inside this broadband place where we're just like food and sex, food and sex, food and sex, food and sex. And I'm sorry, that was animals. Food, yeah, money and sex, money and sex, money and sex, money and sex. Yeah. I mean, we're more advanced. We want to gather massive money, like security. If animals knew to store money, they'd also do it. So and then there's, but then when you go on the micro, amazingly, if you just focus in on this rug and just keep going in and in and in like 10,000 times, 20,000 times, 30,000 times, you can actually keep going in and eventually you'll realize that everything's one. This is a wild world we live in. Wild world. This is why Kabbalists and physicists realize that this world is just paper thin. It's a giant video game to see if you'll give. And that's it. It's the funniest thing is like, forget all the deep Kabbalistic stuff we're doing. The whole reason this video game was created was just to see if you'll give. Will you see the person in need as separate from you or part of you? That's it. So you can actually just take all the Kabbalistic stuff you're learning today and just like, you could shelf it. You don't have to know it. Just know to give. Just know to give. And give to a spouse, and give to your kids, and give to your neighbors, and give to anyone in need. Realize your life's for service. All the NDEers, what NDEers, near-death experience guys? They die, and then like in the hospital, they bring them back to life with the PGCs, the people jumper cables, the defibrillators. So I call them PJCs, people jumper cables. So, they bring him back to life, and the guys come back from life, and she's just like, her rest of her life is just for service and wisdom, because they realize in that world it's all information. Because think about it, it's all ones and zeros, guys. In the end, it's all ones and zeros. Right here, the ones and zeros are all like they've emasticized into a chair and into like carpet and floor and like Jerusalem, But when these NDEers die, they go brain dead and heart dead and everything, and they now move into the information world. It's amazing. They all come back totally interested in knowledge. They could be like trash truck drivers, and they come back with a voracious appetite for information, for knowledge. They realize it's all information. You want to get as much as you can while you're here, and then you can go and experience it there. And they also turn their lives to lives of service. Lives of service. Like, what can I do for you? It's an amazing thing. But that's the point of the whole video game. They got lucky, if you call that lucky. They got to see it firsthand. The rest of us, we just have to, be good Kabbalists and realize that ultimately this is all just protons, neutrons, electrons. It's all oneness. And your body is an avatar for your soul. You actually have a soul. In brain science, they scan the brain. They know where hunger is, thirst is, touch is, sight is, smell. They know where love is. They know where pain is. They know where grief is. They know where joy is. They've mapped the brain. Guess what? The one thing they cannot find, and they've already stopped looking because it's not there. You know what the one thing they can't find is? You. Your actual point of reference does not show up anywhere in the brain because it's part of God. It's called the soul. And it's weird. Like if I put you in an MRI, you won't show up anywhere. You're not there in an MRI. Your body's an avatar for your soul. And each person with their separate body is just basically a lesson, a teaching, wisdom for you to gather, love for you to share, and goodness for you to share in this life. And that's the whole video game. It's really quite simple. Yeah, if you go to Tzfat, I have a dear friend who teaches these things. You guys been to Tzfat yet? Yeah. You already meet my buddy Avram? Yeah. Him and I are teaching the same thing. I'm just going like more into the Kabbalah of it. He's going into the art of it. But it's everywhere. You have no idea. I could take you guys into a forest hike and show it to you there. It's everywhere. The whole world is stamped with it. The whole world's stamped with it. And it's just the most amazing thing in the world. And it's in our Torah, and it's in our hearts, it's in our soul. It's the Kabbalah, which is our, 3,325-year oral tradition. Okay, it got written down because of the Roman persecution, but it was written down so encoded that it's basically still oral. You can't read it and understand it. Only people with a tradition how to read it would know it. So it's just so special. So that's that we are in it. Okay, you guys get that we're in it? Watch, I'm going to swim through it now. Okay? We're in it. Okay? I'm walking on it. You understand? Whoa. It's everywhere. And you're like, and the crazy thing about it is you're the star of it. Think about it. Wherever you go, you're the star of it. If you walked out of here to the hall outside, you'd be like, oh my gosh, he's right. I am the star of it. Which is the coolest thing in the world. You're the star of it. Say Shema before you go to sleep at night. Like I grew up doing that, and I kind of dropped it. When I was a little kid, I did it, but then I dropped it. But I got it back. But it's amazing. You can go to bed at night and just be like, Shema Yisrael, and then right before you fall asleep, you go, good night. It's everywhere. It's so awesome. And the place it probably is most concentrated of all is in beer. Beer. Benjamin Franklin said that beer is how we know God loves us. And I'm on this whole campaign that people are not ready to say blessings. We say blessings on all our food and everything. Like we have a million blessings on rainbows, blessings on thunder, lightning. We've got blessings on particularly ugly people. We have everything. Seriously, you find a particularly ugly person. Please hold still. You pull out your prayer book and you're like, particularly ugly person. Hold still, please. There it is. Okay. Baruch atah. You're the one. Particularly beautiful people, blessing on a king, blessings on everything, because it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So if you get a chance to say a blessing on something, on anything, we go for it. So we're always saying blessing on things. But I have this campaign I'm on, is just on beer. Like someone who's not ready to say it on anything else, I want to teach you how to say it on beer. And it's the most Kabbalistic blessing. The blessing on beer is the most Kabbalistic of all. See, the other ones are like for the fruit of the tree or the fruit of the earth. It's really talking about what you're eating. Whereas the blessing on beer has nothing to do with it. It's shehakol. Try that. Shehakol. That all, nihya, came into existence, bidvaro. Bidvaro is just with like words, because let there be's. There's the word Bereshit, Genesis, and then there's 9 let there be's, altogether making 10 spheros. And the whole world's created out of that. So those hops and the barley, that's let there be vegetation upon the earth. And then there's the water, which is the mineral, let there be minerals, and it's like amazing. Beer is amazing. So I'll just put it up here so you guys can practice that. Let's try it one more time. Shehakol nihye. Or it's nihya, really. It depends who you ask. Bidvaro. Bidvaro. Shehakol, that all came to being. Bidvaro. And yeah, I said it this on my coffee. Anything drinking except for wine and grape juice. So I said on my coffee in shul on Shabbos. I did my second big hit of coffee in my shul. We do extreme prayer, like top of our lungs. You guys heard of primal scream therapy? John Lennon and Yoko Ono were into this. You scream. Yeah, you have to learn how to do it. It's a scream like you've never done in your life. But there's a scream inside of you that's like so intense. And if I could I couldn't do it now because it takes a while to warm up. But anyway, what we've done is we've applied primal scream therapy to the Jewish prayer book. And it is so awesome. I mean, it takes forever. But by the time you're halfway through, you're already like, you're like a moth to a light bulb. You're just kind of, your tears streaming down your face. It's amazing. Anyway, so I went in for my second fuselage, shooting off into outer space. And so I said, Shako, Nia, Bidvo. And this Hasidic guy comes up to me and after I said the he says, Amen. He says, Shako. It's like everything. And I was like, yes. Come on, Nick. So anyway, number 6 is, it is not us. Okay? It is not us. What? We're it, but it ain't us? And the answer is not us. Let me explain. Imagine I dip this cup. Let me take a sip first before I say this. Imagine I dip this cup in the Atlantic Ocean, and I'm walking around. What do you call in Rutgers where everyone hangs out? Is there a quad or they have a student union? What's it called? College Ave. So I'm walking around College Ave. I've dipped this in the Atlantic Ocean. Now I'm walking around College Ave, and I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, the Atlantic Ocean. I got the Atlantic Ocean right here. The Atlantic Ocean. Yeah. I got the Atlantic Ocean in my hand. I got the Atlantic. Anyway, so I'm walking around College Ave, and I'm just like, the Atlantic Ocean, everybody, the Atlantic Ocean. People would be like, this guy's crazy, whatever. Finally, I wind up in the hands of school security. And the liquid bombers and stuff, so he's like, we better examine this little cup of water of yours, or why don't you come with me? So they send my water to the chemistry department. I'm like, no. And they take it to the chemistry department. And now I'm sitting down in the student detention center. I don't want to drink this now. The Atlantic Ocean. Anyway, the student detention. And the guy's asking me questions, so how long have you felt this way about your cup of water? Like what are you, my psychologist? It's Atlantic Ocean. Anyway, finally a guy comes out in a white lab coat with a clipboard, and the officer is like, okay, what's in the cup? And he says, sir, that's the Atlantic Ocean. Can I go now? Yeah. Now, what is ridiculous about saying that this is the Atlantic Ocean? What's ridiculous about it is that this is one cup to the gigantic Atlantic Ocean, but it really is of the Atlantic Ocean. It's of the Atlantic. It's not the Atlantic Ocean, but it's of the Atlantic Ocean. What is the ratio of this cup to the Atlantic Ocean? It's a giant. I mean, there is a ratio, but I happen to know what it is. I checked it out before I got here. It's a 1 to a godzillion, because only God knows how many zillions of cups would be in the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, 1 to a godzillion. But I'm going to ask you a question. This is a deep question. I'm going to ask you, which is the bigger ratio? You ready for this? This is a crazy question. This cup to the entire Atlantic Ocean, or the entire expanding space-time continuum to an infinite being that it's expanding into? Which one's the bigger ratio? And the answer is the expanding universe into an infinite being is the bigger ratio. And the truth is, it's not a fair question because there is no ratio. It's an infinite being to a finite world. But it's definitely bigger than a cup, finite cup to a finite ocean. Okay? We're not it. You get that? That's number 6. Sorry, we are it. It's not us. It's infinitely beyond us. Is that clear? It's infinitely beyond us. So it's us, but sorry. We're it, but it's not us. Is that clear? And this is amazing because in the Torah you'll see that it says that God is God. You know, that's steps 1 through 5. God is God. But what's the second commandment of the 10 Commandments? Good job, guys. The first commandment is the numbers 1 through 5. Okay, that's the first commandment. The second commandment of the Torah is you shall have no other gods, meaning don't ascribe power to any other thing. Okay, make that your power. No other power. Lo yelechem Elohim acherim. You shall have no other gods before me. Which is number 6. Don't point to any one thing in the physical world and ascribe power to it. It's true the sun's very powerful. We need it. Photosynthesis, warmth, gravitational pull. It's great. Yeah, we love the sun. But we don't bow to it. Okay? You know what we call any yoga people here? Yeah, we have yoga, Aish yoga here. So you know what we call, in yoga, it's called the Sun Salutation. Yeah, you know what they call it here in Israel? They call it Yedei Moshe, the hands of Moses. Yeah, the hands of Moses that were up all day during the fight with Amalek, you know, the battle on the way out of Egypt. So we need the sun. The sun's very important. Can't live without it. Don't bow to it. Okay, you get that? Don't point to any one thing and ascribe it power. That's number 6. Because even though it is of God, but God isn't it. God's not a sun. He's not you. He's not a person. God is some kind of infinite being. We have no idea what it is. Okay? It's just whatever precedes the world. Okay? And it not only precedes the world, but it is causing the world to strobe into existence via ultimately nuclear, ballistic, primordial utterances of let there be's. By the way, what if he stopped saying for a second, listen to this, what if God stopped saying for a second, let there be vegetation upon the earth? Right now, if God just said that. He just stopped saying, let there be vegetation upon the earth. You know what would happen right now? I'd be wearing no undergarments. Okay? Thank God I'm wearing a wool sweater, because that's let there be animals upon the earth. It's wool. It's made of sheep. Okay? My pants are made of wool. I'm in good shape. Okay? Some of you guys would be stark naked right now. Okay? Let there be if God stopped saying, let there be vegetation upon the earth, boom, gone. Everything vegetable would be gone like that. Gone. Bang. If God were to stop saying for one split second, stop any of those 9 other utterances, obviously Genesis, Bereshit, then we'd really be gone. But any of those, it would be gone. We are the other end of these nuclear radiated light beams that are coming, being deflected and ultimately it's really just math. It's all info. Don't forget, it's all information. So it's all calculation. It's actually 231 exponential calculations. Aleph bet. It's Aleph bet, Aleph gimel, Aleph dalet. It's an algorithm. bet Aleph, bet Gimel. It goes through 231 permutations, but the math gets gigantic. And it comes shooting down that system and finally like locks into physicality, into our physical world, which is amazing that physicists now have realized it's all space. It's all just strobing into existence in the way that it moves with each other to create your chair, or to create your clothes, or your skin, or your bones. So we are in this cosmic, amazing reality. And the last thing is just don't ascribe power to any of it. Always make God the power. And the simplest lesson of all is in the video game, our job is to be givers rather than takers. Now, some of you might be saying, well, I'd be happy to give if I knew someone would be giving to me. But until someone's giving to me, I got to take care of number one. Well, guess what? I'm going to teach you something amazing. If you want to crack the code on creation, try giving without waiting for someone to give to you and watch the magic start to happen. That's the amazing thing in this world. Because we'd all say, yeah, I'd love to give. Just make sure show me I'm covered and I'll start giving. You want to crack the code on creation? You want to live a magical life? Get everything we've been sharing. Get the cosmic diamond. And just start sharing. And watch the magic happen in your life. Watch your life be filled with love. Love's a great example. A lot of people, they gave love at one point in their lives. They got hurt. And so they just shut down their love. Because whatever they gave love, they gave their heart to someone who didn't deserve it, and they broke their heart, whatever. Now they don't give much. They've never given since then that amount of vulnerability, that amount of full disclosure of self. They've never done that since then. And so they're waiting around for someone to make them feel safe enough again. But the problem is that how do you ever invite someone to share your life if you're already shut down? There's no way to get that back if you're shut down already from that. So what's the key is open up and allow yourself to be loved by people. Allow people to love you. Allow people in. How hurt can you get? You're an adult already. You're all adults. How hurt can you get? Allow people in. Obviously, there's an inner sanctum of letting people in. Now you know you only do that when they're trustworthy. To do that. In the old days, you need an insurance policy to give your heart to someone. I'm going to end with a blessing. If I think, am I on time? Is this a good timing to end? Yeah? So I'll end with a blessing that may we all be blessed to take what we got here in Israel, Eretz HaKodesh, the holy, holy land, and just go with it. You guys have so much opportunity to grow in turn. I promise you, there's nothing but joy and amazing blessing. And bounty, too, financial bounty. Because also, once God sees that you're the guy who's making the blessing, you're the gal who's like giving. So what is God going to say? Make sure she has. Make sure he has. If this guy's a clearinghouse, for goodness. So I got to make sure this guy's loaded with stuff. And I'm telling you, and I promise you, you look at me, I promise you it works. I promise you it works. You be a clearinghouse for love. You will have loving relationships surrounding you. You will be a love magnet in your life. Make sure everyone's eating. You will be a magnet for money, or at least for wrapped sandwiches. There's one thing you know for sure, Nicole, and all of us know, is that you have free will. You're making decisions all day long. You have macro decisions, like where you're going to go to school, who you're going to marry, where you're going to live, what occupation you might have. And you have micro decisions all day, like am I going to throw this cup away or just leave it there? Right? We have macro, micro choices all day long. Now, and now it's just an illusion. Yet the one thing I know is that I have choices all day long. So whatever this being is, it would have to have a pretty sick sense of humor to have given me all this choice when it all doesn't matter anyway. So the answer is, Nicole, is that you're actually judged for your experience of this world in all the choices you'll make throughout it, and you're here to make good choices. And you'll notice you're always given an equal and opposite negative choice, like I don't want to share the sandwich, and I don't want to throw away the cup, and I don't want to stay in Israel and learn Torah. You're given that part of you in order to give power to the choice of I do want to give half my sandwich, and I do want to throw away that cup, and I do want to learn Torah in Israel after birthright. Yeah? You're given that choice, meaning that's what makes life powerful. If you say I love you to someone, the power that you're going to feel if they say it back is that they could have not said it back. So since, Nicole, you know and I know your life's full of choices, so really this whole illusion is really all about the choices you'll be making in your life. And that's what it's all about. And when your avatar dies, I bless you, avatar should live ad mea vestrim, 120 years in good health. But when your avatar dies, your soul will go up with a gigantic number 2 pencil Scantron sheet. I'm serious. A giant number 2 pencil Scantron sheet, and it's going to go into the great computer in the sky of every choice you made throughout your whole life, of whether it was giving or taking. That's it. No fire and brimstone or anything. Just, put the Scantron sheet in and see how you did. And thank God we have Yom Kippur. That's the other side of the number 2 pencil. What's that part? The eraser. Yeah, Yom Kippur. We have Yom Kippur because Jews can, God commands us so much that we would have so many bugs on our windshield by the end of our road trip that you wouldn't be able to see anymore. So God, just for Jews, because we have 613 commandments, which really are just 613 hyperlinks, because it's really about 55,000 laws, and so we have to have this like full factory reset every Yom Kippur. What's the worst day of the year to die as a Jew? Day before Yom Kippur. What's the best day of the year to die? Day after Yom Kippur. Full factory reset. You still have residue. There's still film. A couple, bug legs or something.
So, this is all that Kabbalah stuff, and it's meant for Jews, because I guess we're chosen people. But in your video game, wouldn't that give Jews kind of a cheating code as compared to other people? And why can't other people be given this information?
The opposite. It's a liability for us. See, the rest of the world, the other 7 billion people, we're so ethnocentric, as Jews. We got what do we got, like 13, 14 million Jews? Like China's margin of error in their census is 80 million. We all walk around like we own the place. So you should never feel bad by being few in number, by the way. I mean, think about it. Just because a lot of people believe in one thing, does that make it true? You had half of Europe thinking every Jew had to be exterminated. Does that make it true? You got 1 billion Christians believe this, 1 billion Muslims believe that. What's that automatically do? It automatically cancels and lets you know that numbers have nothing to do with truth. Okay? Numbers have nothing to do with truth. Truth has to be something that stands on its own without numbers of people nodding like they're on glue. The truth is, everyone in the world was supposed to realize, if it hurts, don't do it to others. Everyone was supposed to know to give. Everyone was supposed to know if it's hungry, feed others. The whole world was supposed to figure this out. But after 2,500 years, God was so disappointed that he finally said, you know what, let's just go with one nation that'll do it, and then everyone else will watch it and say, hey, let's do like that. It's a teacher's sin. You ever been to a class, 500 kids in it? And they had TAs? We're the TAs. Yeah? And by the way, we blew it as TAs. And God just went, and took the orb of Jerusalem and spread it into exile. And then we carpet bombed the world with what's called ethical monotheism. And totally civilized humanity, wherever we went. So they were supposed to get it. Think about it. Sinai's only, where is Sinai? 2448. In year 2448. What year was Sinai? 2448. In 2448, that means for 2.5 millennia, God tried to do it like normal. Didn't go, because people have free will, and they chose not. They chose out. So God said, okay, I'm just going to do one freak out thing to one nation after transgenerational slavery. Now, you got to imagine Moses, when we left Egypt, when you guys have been to a university graduation where the dean wears a super funky cap and gown? Yeah? Imagine Moses in the super funky cap and gown. Yeah? And he's got these diplomas that say UOS, University of Slavery. Because we've done transgenerational slavery in Egypt in order to learn how to serve for the rest of history. Because this is it for the rest of history. Brings us to Mount Sinai, gives us a THX surround sound, Omnimax 3D LSD freak out, boom. Shows us everything. Shows us everything. And so now you look at Jews, we're totally freaked out. We're crazy. Even Jews who try to get rid of their Judaism, they've surgically reinstalled their foreskin. You'll see that they're crazy. Jews are crazy. If you take out all the Jews from all the nations of Nobel Prizes and you just let Jews be one nation, and you can just tape down the scroll button and just watch the Nobel Prizes going down and down and down. It's like this giant tower of Nobel Prizes. We're crazy. It's all Sinai. It's that Sinai. Remember I said about the Ethiopian? And when you have a terabyte of Torah hard drive, You want Torah software. But what happens is the people who don't go for it are still wild because of that. So you understand, like, God does want to connect to humanity like this. You don't need to be a rocket science Kabbalist to know this stuff. But because after 2.5 millennia of pure disappointment, God did plan B. This is plan B. Now, then there was plan C, because plan B didn't work. And that was the carpet bombing. And now we're in plan D, and I've got like 10 classes on plan D. Plan D is redemption. And look, we're having this, if this wall wasn't here, you'd be staring at the Temple Mount. You'd be staring at the Temple Mount. This is all plan D. That whole exile, TA thing's over. Now it's time for like the end game, like the amazing stuff you're going to see in your lifetimes. Yes?
I sort of have like two questions chained together. One of my questions, just because I'm curious, were you brought up Jewish, or did you convert to their religion?
So I was raised by 2 Jewish parents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my first question. The second question is for people that are not Jewish, or in general people who believe not necessarily in God or believe in multiple gods. Do you think that faith in general in something, God understands that you're praying to something, so that it's good enough? Because
I hear it's an amazing question.
But the way you're brought up, like for instance, I remember I had a discussion with a guy. He was my friend's dad was a Jehovah's Witness, and he says people that don't believe in God will suffer the penalties. But I'm like, what about people that not even know better? Because know better, how do we know? No one really truly knows 100% for sure. You believe, but you don't. There's no fact book that says this is,
Yeah, God always keeps you guessing a bit. There's no 100%. Yeah.
For instance, if I'm a Hindu, I grew up
believing holy cows.
But what I'm saying is, if you grow up in that culture in that way, and that's what you end up believing, whatever, Muslim, Christian.
Are you busted? That's your question.
But it sort of is that, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, are you busted? It's an amazing question, and I don't know. I don't know the answer. And Judaism,
that's not free will. That's.
Yeah, no, they have free will, and they were raised a certain way, and they're believing in certain things that are obviously not, God. And the question is, are they busted? I got to tell you, I don't have an answer for you. I'm sorry. The only thing I could possibly tell you is that the only question they wouldn't be able to answer is, why didn't you search? But why they did what they did is because they were raised that way. So they may be busted.
It's the same thing with us. Maybe, let's just say, not this might be controversial. What we're doing is wrong. Not necessarily wrong, but like.
Could be. But the only question, if you're just a product of your upbringing, of your society, so then your only question God could possibly hold you to is, well, why didn't you look? And you might say, I did look. Why didn't you look more? When you look, pull out your microscope. What?
How do you know even if you look?
That's an amazing question. So the answer is there's 2 types of knowledge. I'm just waiting at any point for the birthright crowd to say, like whoever your madruchim are, to say stop. So the answer is that there are 2 types of knowledge. They're both knowledge, and you live with both. One is called, when it comes to knowledge, so one is called absolute. Okay, and that's like I have 5 fingers. That's absolute knowledge. No. Okay, the other kind is called deductive. You deduced it. I'll give you an example. Deductive knowledge, like that your mother's your mother. Okay, I doubt any of you were in a fight with your mom and like she stuck out her tongue and you took a Q-tip. And you're like, did a little swab and you're like, we'll see if you're my mother. You can't be my mother and speak like that. Yeah. So anyway, you get that? Total deductive knowledge, but you live with it. Did any of you know that your plane would make it to Israel? No, but I didn't see any of you like kicking the tires on the tarmac and stuff, you know. You just got on, you know, it made it to this airport, it'll make it to the next airport. You know, deductive knowledge. You risk your life on it. When you invest money, which you will when you're older, I bless you all. So when you invest your money, are you going to know absolute knowledge? Oh, you'll deduce. This is a good way to make your money, a good way to make some money. You'll deduce it. If you have absolute, there's a couple of government officials that have a few questions for you. Okay? You're going to, the second biggest question your whole life, the second most important question your whole life, who you'll marry. You're going to know, or you're going to deduce it. You're going to deduce it. So deductive knowledge, now let me just show you how it works real quick. Deductive knowledge works like this. Here I know nothing, okay? And this is all evidence, okay? And this is, let's call this absolute. This is deductive, okay? This is the hot spot, okay? This is I know nothing. This is like blind faith. I just want to believe it. And this whole line going up is evidence, okay? So someone with a PhD is going to have a different level of evidence he or she requires to call something true. And someone else is like a high school dropout who's been waiting tables and getting high all day, yeah? Might have a much lower threshold. Like they might be more in touch with like, oh yeah, this like, I jive with that. You know, they like jive with something. No, but you should know, jiving with something, you know, I'm in touch with billionaires, like people managing billions of dollars in Midtown Manhattan who are pure jive with it people. And they do great. So jive with it is not so bad. Okay, they stock traders, they're all about jiving with it. Okay, so but anyway, you got these jive with it here. And this is more intellectual, but eventually you call it true. You get that? You call it true. I would risk my life. I'd risk my life. If someone put a gun to my head, God forbid, and told me to, I don't know, bow down to an idol or do something wrong, you know, sexually, or someone would, you name it. Like if someone, not you name it. There are certain things I'd do, but you're supposed to. I mean, if they told you to break Shabbos, are you allowed to break Shabbos to save your life? Yeah, then you are. But if someone asked me to kill somebody, which you're not allowed to do even at your own death, or to serve an idol, so I better know, you know. So the answer is I would take the bullet because I reached in my own investigation after I graduated university and studied Torah, that, you know what, there's so much evidence towards this that, you know, it's just common sense. Just like the common sense that the world didn't create itself. So what I'm saying is there is such a thing as knowing things. Now, what would you call, oh my gosh, I spaced your name. What's your name again? Gabriel. Gabriel, what would you call this area to this area, though? Yeah, well, that's where the doubt still exists, right? But you have to be honest with yourself. You make all your decisions much lower than here. Meaning that if you would sit with me for like 10 hours and we just poured through Torah, I would show you so much more than what you'll gladly walk onto a plane with. So much more evidence than what you'll walk onto a plane with. You understand? So we all risk our lives. What we won't risk is our lifestyle. That's the funny thing is. We'll risk our lives, we'll risk our money, we'll risk who we're married to, but we won't risk our lifestyle based on evidence.
Isn't life the greatest thing? Maybe not killing another person, but doing things, maybe like as long as it's not innately evil, I guess. Like you talked about idols. Well, what about so many other people throughout centuries have worshipped idols unknowingly? Greeks, Romans, people.
They didn't know better.
Didn't know better. I understand that, but if you have a gun to your head, God knows that your life is more important, and if you still may worship idols, but in your heart you truly believe God is there, what does it matter?
I agree with you about most commandments, but that particular one, God, we have a tradition in Judaism to say that this is it's time to go. This is God's way of saying it's time to come home, and you get to do it in like a super highway. So two things. One, just you'll take this wherever you take it, but like if I drop my pick from here to here, oops, I was afraid that was going to happen. But that's also good. So, right, that was all cause and effect stuff. So Kabbalistically, as I shared earlier, this pick's actually being recreated and strobing into existence in every position. So cause and effect's actually ultimately an illusion for us to have free will and live in a world of cause and effect, when in fact everything's coming into existence from absolute nothingness at all times, from something from nothing always. It's just strobing so darn quick we can't see it. Okay, so that's one thing. That's just to take with it what you do with it. Okay, as far as determinism versus free will, is that even though God knows what I'm going to do, I don't. And my life is just a life of like choice, right? Even though God knows what I'm going to choose, for me, do I know? If I've got a cheeseburger and a glot burger, right? So I'm experiencing, I mean, I'm not really experiencing choice, but you may be experiencing choice, especially if one's $2.99 and the other one's $8.99. Okay, you may be experiencing choice right now. You know, God's perfect at stacking it up like that, you know. And so you got to make a choice. Does God know what you're going to choose? For sure. Do you know what you're going to choose, Charlie? Do you choose? No. So, and then when you put your Scantron sheet and you enter into where the NDEers go, the near-death experience people, and you now, like, all this physical world just breaks up. Now you're in pure light, like a moth to a light bulb, just like, yeah. So I don't want to give too much detail on this because just we're supposed to go, but that's where ultimately your choices will be. It's the Scantron sheet world. You got to get through the Scantron sheet realm, but you should just know, just for good news, is nothing you ever do negative in your life will stick. Will stick. You deal with the Scantron sheet realm, and then you just are in the world of all the good you did. Our world is only for the good you'll do here. You were put in the video game for the good you'll do. And I'm sure when God told your soul that you got to go down, you were like, no, I don't want to go. You know, because you're just like, with the light of, you know, you don't want to go. So you're like, I'm not going. And God's like, I'm sorry, but like, you know, it's the perfect family. It's the perfect generation. You know, you'll have the exact sibling order that you need. Like, it's everything you need. And we've waited for like 345 years for this. Perfect scenario. Go. And you're just like, okay. You know, and all of a sudden you're like in the fetus. It's the 40th day after conception that goes into the fetus. And now it's like, you know, in a fetus, just like, whoa. You know, what's going on here? So, but one of the things you'd say when you said no is that there's too much liability. There's so much liability. I mean, I'm a good guy. I try to only do good things. I just taught a class 2 nights ago. For 2 hours. That whole 2 hours, I was blocking a driveway. It's not a driveway. Meaning I was parking in a normal parking spot, but it was a way into a courtyard. And it was a real parking spot with lines. It was a way into a courtyard where a crane waited for 2 hours to lift couches up into an apartment. A few millennia ago, the words were carved in stone. The single greatest gift mankind would ever see. In your image we were cast, not to ever be alone. And you gave us a working world to show your love eternally. Given the precious connection, we have the opportunity. Passing it on, or we will lose it forever. Look into our people, that's you. Look into our people. Take a little time to be a new beginning, or the end of the line. The merit of generations binds the people to the text. Our ancestors have given their lives for the right to say a prayer. So how is it we're gonna pass this blessing to the next? No, most of us cannot recall the reason we should care. Quietly stand on the sidelines. Slowly we throw it away. Watching our birthright disappearing forever. Look into our people, let's go. Take a little time to be a new beginning, or the end of the line. Ooh, ooh, oh. Ooh, ooh, oh. The merit of generations binds the people to the text. Our ancestors have given their lives for the right to say a prayer. So how is it we're gonna pass this blessing to the next, when most of us cannot recall the reason we should care? Quietly stand on the sidelines, slowly we throw it away, watching our birthright disappearing forever. Look into our people. Let's go. Take a little time to be a new beginning, or the end of the line. Look into our people, look into our mission. Don't deny our children their beautiful tradition. Watching our birthright disappearing forever.